Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Today I am here with fourth year studying in mathematics and its applications. Jamie Yu, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. I've actually quite loved what I study, even though I may not love how this course are gotten taught.
You got here, it was like a COVID year kind of when you started.
Yeah.
So how was the restrictions or the lockdowns in Toronto compared to where you were from in China?
First of all, U of T is it's an okay school. It's probably easy to get in, but hard to get out.
How has been applying for jobs been for the younger students who eventually are going to be in your position to kind of know ahead of time?
Interview actually needs to spend a lot of time on it. It's not about something that you can try to plan to do right away without any preparation. One point is that you have to know what the interview is about, because the companies may not tell you what they're gonna do on the interview. Sometimes you don't even know whether it's technical one, it's a behavioral one, it's a roast on your resume or a roast on your experience you have no idea of. So treat it as a course, right? If you can treat it as a course, like spend like 2 to 3 hours a week to prepare for it, you can do that. I really kind of love or feel achievement for finding the patterns, for decode something. So it's kind of dream job. Financial returns or financial rewards may not be the priority for me, because I literally love doing this. It's not about chasing the money, but
That's good. That's
I love all these, because you can see from my projects, I really love this. I'm not just trying to be more competitive on my resume, but like what I said, I spend my spare time on it.
Yeah.
I learn it and I love it. So
That's great. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the VoV podcast, Voices of Vic. Today I am here with fourth year student studying in mathematics and its applications. Jamie Yu, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. So why don't you give the audience a little bit of an intro about yourself? What do the VoV listeners need to know about you?
I'm now a fourth year student and studying mathematics and this application statistics probability, and I actually kind of love what controversial point I'll say is I've actually quite loved what I study, even though I may not love how this course are gotten taught, but I love all the content and I will try to apply them in the future as part of my career, as my hobby, as whatever. So yeah, I love numeracy and probably try to invest my time on it, and that's me.
Absolutely. Okay, so you say you like the content, but maybe not the way it's taught or the way the U of T presents it.
Mm-hmm.
What about math and its applications is U of T getting wrong?
Well, actually, this course or this program is one of my reasons to choose these programs, because of its flexibility at the third or fourth year, because you have at least two credits to choose, and you can choose different courses. You can choose stats courses, you can choose applied math courses, you can choose math courses, or whatever you want. At least it's 300 level plus. So at that time, I think, I love it. And at that time of the first year, I'm not very familiar with this content, I don't have any plan at the time, and so I just follow the lectures. But I realized that some of the lecturers are just reading off the PowerPoints. Some of times the content is quite interesting. For example, there's one course called MAT 246, and it was quite interesting, but the professor make it a little bit more confusing than it should be for second year students for such introductory level courses. So yeah, I mean, I love the content, but sometimes they are able to make the exam hard. They make the lack of communication. For example, they don't tell you what's gonna be examined, what kind of question gonna exam, how deep your understanding should be. So you will feel panic, you'll feel uncertainty, and you have to go through all of these. It's not about only study; it's about overcome all these difficulties.
Absolutely.
I would say.
Yeah, it's intense. Sometimes there are people know at U of T there are weeder courses, so kind of courses that they make harder than they need to be just to kind of weed out the students who might not be giving it 100%. Do you think it was the case for, what did you say, Math 246, was it?
Well, I mean, Math 246 is a bit far away, but just makes it actually makes the course kind of like a torture. You just don't want to go to lecture, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes they force you to because they got some participation. They got after lecture quizzes, and you have to memorize the questions.
Yeah.
And do it beforehand and write it at the end of the lecture. So more or less kind of wasting my time, wasting my energy, and a lot of the, and that's it. That's one point. And also, in terms of what you said about reader course, I think it happens, but it happens in the case that it's not about difficulties. It's about the marks. They can manipulate the marks. They can. They can. The averages can be like 30%, can be 70%, can be 50%. And this really depends.
Yeah.
And sometimes the professor promised the average gonna be 70 plus, but actually it turns out to be 63 to 66. So it's a little bit frustrating, I would say. But my opinion is that the course can be hard. I'm not against that. Because if it's hard for everybody. But it's hard to distinguish people. It's really hard to distinguish between people. You have to. It's an art to design an exam, to design a course, or design all of these course structures of all of these, grading schemes. I would say.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my opinion.
So, when you say that there's also not only the difficulty of the education, right? So students come to U of T, they're learning things that are, a bit hard to grasp. They're on that line where some students do well, some students don't, and it challenges most of us here to really try to, adapt to new concepts. But you say that there's the difficulty of the academics, but then there's also the difficulty of the stress and the uncertainty that comes with U of T. Now, some people listening might say, well, university should kind of challenge your stress tolerance because, the work world's pretty stressful. It's going to be tough when you get out there, and you have to learn how to manage that side as well. What part of the stress at U of T do you think is helpful for students versus stress that's like unnecessary? Is there a difference between the two?
There is, yeah. So some stress, like routinely stress. For example, if a course requires to do something that's already told you like weekly, you have some professors already listed the like ideal schedule for every like typical week. So for the Monday you do something, Tuesday you do something, and Wednesday you do something. And for me that's okay because that at least means the professor is quite like the professor is very structured, like, but that's okay. Because I know the kind of commitment I need to put in for that course, for that whatever project is. But some professors are kind of very blurred. They have like only one syllabus because that's mandatory, and they don't have any other material published. You have to go to lecture. I mean, I love go to lecture, right? And there's nothing wrong about that. But they got no like notes. They got no just like. As everything just about the syllabus and the Kirkus page is just empty. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that, but that's kind of the stress I don't want to take because that's the uncertainty that you don't want. Like, I'm seeing that's kind of a lack of effort from
a little bit unprofessional.
Not that level, but I would say it's kind of a bit. It's just make my life harder. I'm not gonna learn from it. Right. Yeah. I have to. Like, for example, there are discussion board, but professors don't answer that questions. Right. It's just discussion boards for students to answer each other, and some students go to lectures so they can answer others' concerns, and it may sometimes discretionary because people just may not want to comment and write a comment on platforms like Piazza. Yeah. So, yeah, that's kind of the part I don't want. But if you talk about exams or assignments, it's okay. Whatever hard you make it, there's nothing wrong with it because I actually try to learn something useful for the future rather than just like copy your code and do something meaningless. I don't like it. Even though I got high grade, I don't like it because it's still not not make me achieve something in the
Right.
future.
Right.
So so I would say just like the exams, if they tell me like what kind of exam, like what's your expectation from me, and that's good.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna concern about the difficulty because I'm kind of okay with the exam though. So I'm just about the uncertainty. I don't know everything. I just do need to learn from scratch. I don't like that. So
Yeah.
it's more about communication and all of this information.
Absolutely. So you're graduating. We're both in 4th year. We're about to finish up.
Mm-hmm.
If you were back in 1st year, if you got plucked from this timeline and you're back with the knowledge you have, it's 2025,
Ooh.
you're a kid, I guess you'd be born in 2007. Would you come back to U of T? Would you do it over again? Do you think it's been an experience that's been worthwhile? Were you disappointed? Do you think other universities might be better places? Like, what are your thoughts on that looking back at your university experience all around?
Well, this is a nice question, but this question is actually hard to answer because I actually have no idea about other unis, right?
Yeah.
It can be better, it can be tougher. I'm not sure about that, but but you know, and I really don't know. I really don't know if U of T's difficulty is hard or not because I was usually thought about it was just everybody's like that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether other unis gonna be, you know, less tougher or less better teaching quality. I'm not sure.
Absolutely.
So it's a bit hard for me, but I would say U of T's experiences. If you want me to describe about it, I would say it's a bit monotonic. I would say it's a bit, you know, it's more like waste your life on study because you do have the commitment, and you know, and you got a lot of work to put on because you worry about dues, and you cannot like afford back grade or whatever. So it's a lot of commitment, but it also is like what you said. The stress actually can push you to improve because, for example, without the structure of course, you may just go off and you know you may get a higher grade, but you actually learn nothing. So UT actually helped me learn something, but I still need to spend a lot of my spare time to learn something because you know what uni taught you is not about the content. Actually, it's about the way of thinking, the way of deal with things, the way of deal with pressure and time management, those sort of things.
Yeah.
So you have to also spend a lot of time to learn other things, so that make you more employable. So that's kind of my perspective, and it's a very hard decision for me to make about whether I would change my mind. But it's about it's an opportunity cost, but still it's uncertain.
I hear you. And when you say that, people might hear you and say, I thought that university was the place where they were supposed to teach you those employable skills. You know, I thought you were going to go to U of T and they were going to help you have a better chance at getting a job. But you're saying you got to do the U of T work on one side, and then you have to actually learn the skills that would make a manager or a CEO want to bring you into his company. Like, do you think the university should be a place where they teach you those important skills, or does it serve a different purpose?
Well, I think like definitely. I think university should at least teach more. Make us more like practical skills. But it really depends on the major, isn't it? So for majors like computer science, computer engineering, they're able to go out and directly find a job done. But it's not that easy nowadays for other kind of students, even STEM related students,
right?
Because math is not that directly applicable to most of the industry. And understand that, for example, if you do something related to statistics, you can find a job because that's more related to everything like marketing, like commercial, like technology, like everything. But it's still, you know, the university. Most of the university majors don't offers you a direct path to the job, to the corporate world.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think the uni should teach us more about it. But but I would say that I would say they should, but they still need to keep that kind of level because if you just teach something skills, it may more make like a boot camp,
Yeah.
more like a I would say I'm not saying anything bad about boot camp, but it's more about kind of more structured way of learning,
Yeah.
thinking, and critically thinking, especially.
So do you think that when you look at your first year yourself, just to go back and do this little experiment, those, I guess, I don't want to call them soft skills, but that change you've made in your character that has made university different than just a boot camp. It doesn't just give you skills. It helps you grow as a person, and it helps you think of problems in a way that perhaps you wouldn't have been able to think of without the university. So do you think that specifically the institution itself, University of Toronto, has provided you with that, I guess, opportunity to grow and to see problems differently and kind of, I guess, jig your mindset towards fixing those issues?
Yeah, if you want me to talk about this, I mean it's hard because people changes gradually.
Yeah.
If you really want me to say one, I would say the way to manage the stress. It's really that way because usually like in the first year, I was really stressed out if my grades not that great, but after going like especially after third year, I would say I'm kind of okay with it. I'm chill with it. So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna feel bad about a back grade for like 10%, 20%
Yeah.
project assignment. I'm not gonna doing that anymore. But I'll just remind myself to, if I'm not doing wrong, just reflect from it. So, like when you bomb an interview or not ace that interview, you'll tell yourself like, oh, you got future chances.
Yeah.
You just learn from it. Like, or you can do better at it. And with that experience, you're gonna do better next time.
Yeah.
Unless something happens. So
Right.
yeah, that's kind of my gains or rewards of all these.
Absolutely.
Going through these, but just like what I said, some of these can be avoided.
Yeah.
And
100%. So I'm interested. I don't know if you have any advice per se, but you have some early experience right now with trying to apply to certain jobs. Obviously, most students in fourth year have to prepare for that. They have to, get their feet wet in the work world. So knowing that, employers are looking for more than just a degree, what have you kind of learned in applying to different places? Like, have you had interview experience where you had these times where perhaps an interview didn't go well, but you learned from it? Like, how has been applying for jobs been for I guess the younger students who eventually are going to be in your position to kind of know ahead of time?
Yeah, interviews interview actually needs to spend a lot of time on it. Mm-hmm. It's not about something that you can try to plan to prepare, trying to plan to do it like just right away without any preparation. Mm-hmm. And it's usually very hard if you don't prepare for it, because something you cannot say or something that you cannot just come out from your real life experience, I have to say, because those employers, there are different types of interviews, right? For example, technical ones, if they just a one-on-one interview, like real person or like virtual ones, if they ask some technical questions that you have no answer of, then literally, and you have no chance at all.
Yeah.
And if it's about behavioral ones, you can try to answer these questions, but there are definitely some structure to answer it. It's about this. There's some way to train it. Unfortunately, I'm not a fan of it, but there's also like other types of like online interviews. They are probably you have to treat it as exams, but overall you have to take it seriously.
Yeah.
That's like my comment. And you know, if you take seriously, your results come back. It's not gonna be that bad, right?
Yeah.
And one point is that you have to know what the interview is about, because the companies may not tell you what they're gonna do on the interview. Sometimes you don't even know whether it's technical one, it's a behavioral one, it's a roles on your resume, or roles on your experience you have no idea of. So that's probably the challenging part. And yeah, just take serious and spend some time on it. So or better you just like treat it as a course, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you can treat it as a course, like spend like 2 to 3 hours a week to prepare for it, to prepare the interview skills, to prepare for the technical assessments, and you can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I respect the work ethic, because it has to be intentional. You know, people sometimes wing these things and just like go into it without putting too much thought. And sometimes, like if you're lucky, sometimes that works. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Maybe if you're just the perfect fit and you have all the right skills. But yeah, I think that anyone can achieve anything if they really set the time aside and say, I'm going to work on this. If I want to get better at this, I obviously, if you don't, what's the quote? I forget exactly what it is, but there's a good quote that says, if you don't suck at it at the start, it's not worth doing. Or like, I don't know, if you don't,
I'm not sure.
I forget what it is. Yeah. If it's not worth doing bad or wrong, it's not worth doing it all, because you have to start somewhere. I forget exactly what it is. It's blank in my mind, but yeah. Anyways, how do you think AI is going to impact the job market? You're already preparing. I see you laughing over there at the question.
AI is very controversial because AI got a lot of related issues.
Right.
And like ethics, like compliance, like risks.
Yeah.
Like all of these sort of things. And also AI got not even, like AI is kind of part of everyone's life. Whether you go to school, AI is the issue.
Yeah.
Whether go to work, AI is the issue, or it's just a very controversial thing. But for me, I would say AI is definitely gonna replace a lot of human works, inevitably, because AI is actually, like if you're talking about AI agents, they're actually quite cheap, or sometimes it's not free for you. And people gonna feel like in the kind of the rely on it, because it's fast. It don't need take time to think about it. Just do the research on the internet, or just like they got already trained to do these kind of things. And I also know some startups to use AI to do some in the specific domains, like laws, like technologies, like all these things. But I also just don't be too pessimistic about it, because it's actually, I would consider AI as a tool. I would not feel the kind of the concept of the AI gonna replace all of us and take over the world. I'm not gonna think about that. It's not the point. But you think about how to use it to help yourself, help you grow. Right. For example, AI is great at summarize a lot of things. Probably you can help you extract the info, so that can make you more productive in workplace, or in school, in everywhere. But just try to get the moral code right. To try to get the code of conduct right. Then to prevent, just for example, if you get a company, if you work at a company, just don't put your company's code in it. So in AI to help you to write. So try to be aware of it and think it's gonna be okay. And in terms of jobs, I think AI is still like sometimes to develop, but something develops quite fast. I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. They say that AI won't replace humans, but humans that use AI will replace humans that don't.
Definitely.
That's what it is. It's it's an interesting future that we're heading into. But you're from China, is that right? Why did you want to come to U of T? I'm sure you applied to a few different places, but you ended up picking here. Why here?
A lot of reasons. Kind of several reasons. I would say. First of all, U of T is like it's an okay school. It's probably easy to get in, but like hard to get out. It's kind of the philosophy here. I will say. Tough
to graduate.
I would say not tough, but it's actually requires a lot of commitment.
Yeah.
And your GPA is gonna be that high.
Yeah.
And so reasons, and also like it's just like there are other similar options, and there's no like outstanding one. So I spend what kind of time, and also it's a great time, I would say, because other some uni give the offer quite late, like June or July, which is kind of stopped me going there, and Toronto is like also like the campus is one of the reasons, because it's in the downtown Toronto.
Yeah.
Which is not like other unis probably go in the rural areas.
Yeah.
That's kind of special point, and I would say that's all the things comes out of my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you have an image of what U of T was before you got here? Like when you were just graduating high school, do you have any thoughts of what you might be stepping into?
No idea. Completely no idea.
Yeah. And you got here, it was like a COVID year kind of when you started. Yeah. So it was kind of, I guess that would be a little bit tough to fully take in the experience of what Toronto was.
That experience was unique. It's like there's a quarantine actually. And the school like started normally, but the end like the first semester started normally, but end like final period just end like there was no final. Actually, there was one final, and after that like stops and everybody went home, and that's one part. And yes, the COVID time is special. It's a bit, it's hard to describe, but it's kind of special vibe, and it's definitely not that great because you see shops are closed, and and people's are kind of distancing from each other. So that's one my image of that period of time.
Yeah.
And I have to like, it's a period of time, and there's some back and forth, and that's my memory about it.
Absolutely, yeah. It was interesting for sure. How was the restrictions or the lockdowns in Toronto compared to where you were from in China? Was it more intense when you got here, or was it not as bad?
No, back in days, I don't remember.
It was about late 2021, so it was still a decent amount, like over a year into the pandemic.
At that time, China has no there are some like lockdown period. Like I don't remember. It's a final year of high school.
Yeah.
So there's some virtual for like it goes virtual for like 2 months.
Okay.
And then back to get the final IB exam, and then the summer before came Toronto was okay. I don't remember actually.
It's hard to say. Yeah, it was a while ago. I'm just wondering, like,
because at the Toronto there was a period of time that you have to show something to them, like when the store requires you to show some code.
Okay.
I don't remember that time.
Was it like a vaccine?
Yeah, the
thing?
vaccine code to show them you got like vaccine.
Yeah.
And then they will let you in and dine in for like, and some restrictions.
Did they have that in China?
There's like a lot of happening, so I think so. Yeah, but at that time I was in Toronto, so I'm not sure what happened. But there's some lockdowns, something like that.
Yeah, that's fair. Interesting. Okay, so We'll take a quick 5-minute break just to let the cameras cool down, and then we can
Sure.
jump back into it.
Sure.
I'm interested in hearing about your plans after university. You know, do you have a dream that you want to live out? Do you have a certain career you want to have? What do you see for yourself, for your life? You have a beautiful wife, lots of money, cars. What do you think?
I'm not sure, but I'm sure one of my targets definitely related to like what I said at the beginning. I would say try to apply and try to extend all my numerous like quantitative related skills.
Yep.
And probably I will go to areas like for statistics. I may go to the technology for doing some analytics related, because I really kind of love or feel achievement for finding the patterns for decode something. So it's kind of dream job.
Yeah.
And also probably that can happen on those quantitative traders, researchers for those trading firms.
Yep.
This can be another path. In terms of math, I would say it's just like what they want, but simply math may not help you, may not be that employable, but yeah, it probably just these are all my kind of the dreams, because I would say the financial returns or financial rewards may not be the priority for me at the current stage, because I literally love doing this. It's not about chasing the money, but
that's good. That's
I love all these, because you can see from my projects, I really love this. I'm not just trying to be more competitive on my resume, but I try, like what I said, I spend my spare time on it.
Yeah.
I learn it and I love it. So
that's great.
That's
great. And okay, so like what kinds of projects or assignments or pieces of work? I feel like students in general have like a favorite project that they've worked on, or something that they really put a lot of energy into, and maybe they got a good grade, maybe they didn't get a good grade, but like what's a piece of work or an assignment or a project you've worked on that you're like super proud of?
You mean the personal ones or the course related, or
like either. Which ones do you like more?
I would say the personal one, because personal ones can be, get more flexibility.
Yeah.
And more freedom.
You dictate your own terms, yeah.
Yeah, it's about like, this was one about it's actually the one that used to be part of my personal project, but now there's a course got similar like this allows such flexibility about doing your own project. Then I turned it into a course project. But I started doing it at the summer, which is quite a lot of work in research, a lot of work in studying, I could say, because you need to learn something new. And yeah, the course is also like a part, because I want to be more like kind of learn more from in that area. So I do the course and yeah, and I now turn to the course project. It's about using all these computations of the statistical tools to help you to predict. It's a predict a grade hunt racing. It used to be like one of the take-home assignments of one of the sports betting firm, and no, I turned it into my project to further involve in it, and also try to involve in one of my course to make it more like supervised, I would say, to ask for advice from the professional, like the professor's quite professional in the area, right? So yeah, that's what I did, and it's a process. It may not lot of line of codes, but it's a process for you to keep learning and keep working on, because for me, learning all these data science, it's not about just read a textbook or just read some articles. It's about how you try it by yourself. So this kind of like a demo, or this the project kind of showing what I did, what I can do in the future. And the personal project is not about about the result, because nowadays, like in the resume, you may heard like they always want like numbers, like 30% increase by doing something, but it's not always the case, because even though in a corporate job, your project can fail sometimes, a lot of times actually. So the personal project is more like a show how aspired, show your passion about this, and show you learn something that people may not know from the uni. So
Yeah.
I would say that's main goal and main reward of the project, not
Yeah.
about the real outcomes.
Yeah. Do you think that there is a sort of positivity bias in, let's say, mathematical research or projects of that sort? I know that because I'm in psychology minor, and we talk about sometimes how only the studies that get published or that get shared most are the ones where they have a finding, or where they discover an interesting correlation. But the ones that have no correlation, where they put a hypothesis forward and it proves to be, there's no evidence for it, nobody wants to share that, obviously, because it's uninteresting. But does the same thing happen in math, where it's like you try to find a correlation with something, like you said, perhaps like a 30% increase in this variable, and you just can't find it, and that way it skews towards a positivity bias?
Well, it's more about how nowadays all these research are more like result oriented,
Yeah.
right? They care about the progress. It's more like they are pushed by the system.
Right.
If they are professors, their priority is to do the research. It's not about teaching. That's why the teaching quality may not be prioritized by them. And that's kind of the whole system requires them. But actually, for me, I would say that kind of definitely exists. And I will not say that if you don't find something, it will be just like uninteresting. It may, it's hard to tell, because a lot of scientific discoveries are from other kind of adjacent areas that may not directly related to that area, but still get something that people may seem at that time to seem uninteresting and seem not useful, not applicable, but it may kind of turns out to be one of the grounds that future people can use to stand on to continue to develop. So yeah, that's my opinion.
Absolutely. Public sector or private sector? If you had to choose one, do you think that there's a better place to work as a math student?
Well, it really depends on the job.
Yeah.
Or on the job description, actually. So it's really about how exciting it can be.
Right.
And I would say, like, in terms of the nature, I would say private sector gonna be more interesting, because it's more expanded. They're more extensive. There are more jobs in different areas, because they got fintech, they got finance, they got investments. All these, they are all number or quantitative related. But for the public, I would say there are some areas like biostatistics. They are related. They are served for the people, but it's kind of a little bit limited, because it seems the nature of the works are less kind of dynamic, probably less kind of challenging to some extent, but it's really depends on specific job. And if the job is kind of identical, I will say it's not really matters. But if the jobs are different, like the nature of the job, my responsibility is different, then everything's different.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting discussion to have, because I feel like there are a lot of people in university, for some reason, obviously because it is taxpayer funded, that kind of demonize the private sector in some ways. Like administration and professors, I've heard, have just they see profit as this evil thing, and it's an interesting discussion to have. But I think that private sector kind of, I guess, grassroots capitalism of, I'm going to start a business, I'm going to do something that might benefit somebody else, and they're going to pay me money for more money than it costs me to do it, and we make a transaction. It just seems like the most natural way that promotes human flourishing, versus public, where they it's nobody's really wanting what you have, in a sense. It's like it's the demand becomes a little bit more distant from what you actually provide. But yeah.
Well, for me, I would say is if you're talking about money, right? It's about profit. I would say it's okay. At least it's a kind of very long discussion about ethics.
Absolutely.
Because, for example, if you talk about stock markets, just somebody will say, "Oh, money is just like it's manipulated," and a lot of like discussion or a lot of opinion says it's just about getting money from others' pockets. It's more about gambling, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot of ethics going on, but yes, that's kind of the part. It's definitely true in some sense because you have to take care about others' well-being as a part of society, right?
Yeah.
You definitely gonna like waste of others' life belongings just at one trade or something like that. But for me, I would say that as long as in general the ethics is kind of ethic requirement is satisfied, and for me this not my biggest concern when I choose to my career. I understand people may value the ethics quite high, but for me, if you're talking about doing the same thing but only doing A or B, I mean, if you doing the thing is the same, but the company is different, then I would say it's not gonna make a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
But if the company itself is controversy, I may stay away from it. For example, a lot of controversy nowadays about Bitcoins, a lot of cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
And it kind of little shady, so
Yeah.
you know. So you just try to make the wise choice when you try to get all these information rather than get biased ones.
Yeah.
I think if you got all informed and do your research, your homework, and then do your make your decision, I think that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. This is an interesting conversation. I don't know if you care much about this, but I find it very interesting that at University of Toronto, the largest population of international students is from China. And obviously everyone understands the Chinese reputation for very strong students and from start to finish. Maybe you don't necessarily think that, but at least here in the West, in USA and in Canada, we see Chinese students as like very disciplined, very hardworking, compared to some of our students who are a little bit more lax. Have you noticed that, or do you disagree?
I agree.
You agree?
Because they value it. Because we Chinese most of Chinese value the GPAs.
Yes.
Because you see those, because it's more about the cultural things. Because they think that learning is a way to get improved, or learning is one of the way when you want to do something that's influential.
Yeah.
And that's why that you see all these more Chinese or Asians, they spend a lot of time in the library.
Yeah.
They go to the lectures, and and that happens. But for me, the part of it's just about the culture. It's about how, for example, international students, they leave the country, like most of them leave the country at the age of 18. For example, that means they are already they are educated from the system like long time.
Yeah.
So they already got grasped the idea of trying to be good at academics because they are students. You're supposed to do it. But I understand that people here or other places may think, oh, I got my life. Studying at uni is not all about my life. Exam is not about my life. So that's kind of the cultural difference, I would say.
What do you think will be the results or the effects of that long term? Like, I'd have to think that a more educated country is going to dominate the lesser educated country in the long term. Do you think that there's a benefit or a downside to that? Like when you look at the global scale of just how China's, I guess, global influence, what China's global influence might be, decades down the line?
That's kind of big topic.
Yeah.
I'm not very sure about that, but if you talk about that culture, I would say it's like there are pros and cons for sure, because the pros it definitely help you stand out from others, and it makes you get these kind of the work ethics, but also you got kind of stress, right? Because you have to study. You just taught or just told to study, like even though you are alone, even though you are in Canada, you still like study. But I mean, it's kind of stressful.
Yeah.
Study is definitely stressful, and other people might think, why just take some time off and do some sports, get some Netflix, right, and watch some movies. So this is kind of the pros and cons. But I just try to say it should be like appropriate. You just feel it's the right thing to do, then just study.
Yeah.
If you think it's too tired, just go home, right? And in terms of global influence, I would say it's a bit early to say something like this, because we're just individuals.
Yeah.
Individuals kind of it's hard, to decide the country. So, and I would say those who are back in China probably the ones who can decide. So I mean, it's still a little bit far, but it seems nowadays like everything is more radical, especially after Trump comes up again in the White House for like another 4 years. So it's just so uncertain nowadays. So it's just hard to comment something big like that.
I hear you. Absolutely. So this is another topic. Do you think that, group work at U of T, group projects, this sort of thing, do you think that's helpful for students? Because I've heard both sides. I've heard, once again, in the real world, you're gonna have to learn to collaborate. You're gonna have to work in teams. Workplaces, there are lots of different personality types that you're gonna be interacting with. Versus, why does this person determine my grade? Why do I have to be dragged down? Have you experienced that at all?
I definitely had a lot of experience of work experience, like during the course projects, right? Sometimes you gotta do individual, independent ones. Sometimes you're allowed to do group ones, but you're also allowed to do individual. But sometimes individual works are not allowed. You have to work in a group, or they will randomly assign you to one of the team. That all three cases happened to me.
Yeah.
And sometimes I would say the course project is, still kind of. I mean, I understand that people care about their grade, right? They care about it will drag me down if they don't commit. And it's not the worst case. The worst case is if the project is at the start of the course, somebody may drop that course. So it's just completely in the individual ones. But I will say I'm not a very good fan of the course project.
Yeah.
Why? Because actually it just forces us to collaborate, because it's a bit, sometimes you don't want to work with people, sometimes you want, but a lot of times this is mandatory. You don't have the choice.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm not a fan of. So, and also, even though I understand the rationale of the group project is about trying to be more like academically collaborative of these community sense, but it still is like people just allocate their job. You got work done, then that's it.
Yeah.
You're really not gonna make friends, or you don't know each other actually. So,
Yeah.
So, I mean, just give the flexibility and autonomy. I would say that's okay, but the mandatory, I'm not a fan.
Yeah. We hear a lot at U of T about mental health. Do you care at all about mental health? Do you ever think about your own feelings, or are you just like, I have work to do, this is a responsibility you don't consider if you're sad or happy. What do you think?
The issues is there. Most of the time I don't feel it, but during the exam season I did feel it, which is quite bad. So, but it seems like the mental health issue is quite big issue here, because students complaining, getting all of these things, they have to get things down, and all of these heavy workloads, right? So I would say mental issues is a very important one, because that's directly related to your well-being. It's not something you must take serious about it.
Yeah.
But for me, like, it seems university has a kind of quite bad reputation on how to help people, because I saw those Reddit posts about they waiting a long time for one consultation.
Yeah.
Is that right? I think that's kind of bad, and it should be like taken seriously. But for me, it may not be that big issue, but it's a more community thing.
Yeah, that's fair. This has been a pretty good conversation, Jamie. I'm wondering if you have any final thoughts that you want to share with the people before we sign off. Please do.
Well, I would say, like, nowadays, especially for those who are graduating, I don't know if you have a plan to do a graduate degree.
I'm not.
For those who don't, try to follow your heart, because sometimes people go to graduate study just to escape from the corporate life. But try to do something you really love to, like something you really want to devote your time in, and whether it's job, whether it's gap doing some volunteer work, or whether it's graduate school, you really want to learn more. It's both okay. Just make yourself hard to decide for you, and also try to be optimistic, I would say, because nowadays the economy is not that great, the job market is not that great. So keep that kind of optimism. Try to be positive, and I think it's gonna be enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Jamie Yu. Thank you for coming on the podcast. I appreciate your time here. And good luck on the last month of U of T. We got good luck with finals. And you can follow us on Instagram at Voices of Vic. We will see you next Sunday. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.